Good day, everyone, and welcome to Admiral Markets and Forex Street joint webinar. My name is Nenad, and today I will present you news trading strategies. So before we begin, let me show you the risk disclaimer first, and then we will go through webinar details. Risk disclaimer explaining all possible risks associated with Forex market. By accepting the risk, you're also proceeding further with me. CFD and Forex trading are leveraged products and can result in losses that exceed your deposits. So this form of trading is not suitable for everyone. Please ensure that you understand risks involved. This video is not part of the .co.uk website, but the globalnews.com website. And finally, we can start with webinar. My name is Nenad, and I wish you a huge welcome. So what do we do today? Fundamental views, what are key releases, currency focus and news focus, news trading, and NFP trading. NFP trading and news trading is different. So standard news trading cannot be seen exactly as the form of NFP trading because NFP trading has slightly higher volatility than normal news trading. Now, the big thing about news trading is that is a completely different way to trade. You need to understand that news trading has nothing to do with day trading, positional trading. It's a form of, let's call it a scalp trading and breakout trading in the same time. So positional trading is totally different kind of trading. Now, if you follow my webinars with Admiral Markets, I really invite you to watch it because I'm trading live on Wednesday, and I also give live setups on Monday. You will occasionally see that I post positional trades, alternative trades, and breakout trades. Have in mind that the way how I trade, breakout trades can always go together with either positional trade or counter trend trades, because breakout trades are simply an add-on to existing position. Let's say if we have a position, we can always scale in the market if we do a breakout. And I also did a couple of videos yesterday. You can check my Twitter to see which videos of live trading I did. Basically, scaling in is a technique that I use very, very occasionally and very effective in Forex trading. Have in mind that news trading that I will be explaining today is a pure form of spike trading. And you definitely need to understand that spike trading is a little bit leverage trading. You use leverage more than positional trade or counter trend trade, but also if you apply it correctly and if you practice it enough, you should be able to make pips. Now, fundamental views, we can say that not each news can be traded. Now, let's say that economic data tends to be one of the most important catalysts for short-term movements in any market. I always say short-term movements when I refer to news trading, simply because if market has the agenda to go up, it will, guys, go up, no matter what will happen. News can simply turn the tide, let's say, for next 1 hour or maybe 2 hours, and then trend usually gets back on track. Now, if you followed my session recap on Monday, you would probably know that I made a great call and trade setup on pound dollar and pound yen, where I said that pound yen should drop and pound dollar should spike from 25.20. Today we saw a spike of more than 200 pips. Now, the reason for that is market is in uptrend. When news kick in, news usually counter the current trend, but then later in next 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, the pair usually gets back in its trend. And that is what we tend and what we want to exploit. So if we see that pair is in uptrend, news can simply give us better position for a subsequent buy in uptrend. Of course, provided that news are not that good, but again, the main trend is what matters the most. That is why I'm saying you always need to treat news trading and positional trading totally different. Okay. The key to trading news is knowing which releases matter and which don't. That is why I will show you which news you might like to trade with these trading strategies. Some news create shorter, but also some can create midterm impact on the markets. For example, we had a news today, I mean, that was first the rumor that was subsequently confirmed that Ms. Theresa May will hold snap elections in UK. And basically, for me, it was a no-brainer that it will just make the pound stronger than it is at this point. So at this point, news spike could be traded on a dip, so buying the dip, but generally I will reassess another analysis, and I will definitely, personally, on my accounts, I will buying the dip on pound dollar. Okay. Now, what can we also say? Massive amount of traders are entering or exiting based on the news release. Of course, the massive amount of cash or cash flow that has been either put in the markets or withdrawn for the markets will impact that current momentum. And that will cause a relatively large move immediately following news release. That is why you definitely need to let me say, you definitely need to be very careful about which news you want to trade, because if you have a fat finger, the thing is that you might make a fat finger error and you might get into an opposite trade, and that is usually not good to your account. Now, there are dozens of key economic news release each month. Interest rate decisions, NFP, FOMC decision, inflation, consumer price, producer price, so-called CPI or PPI, unemployment, industrial production, business sentiment surveys, like German IFO business climate or ZEW sentiment. Don't forget that still in Europe, German is the leader, so German news have most impact on Forex market, especially Euro currencies and Euro currency basket. Consumer confidence surveys, trade balance, manufacturing sector surveys, and not very often, but it might happen from time to time, it's called stress tests. That is when banks conduct stress tests to see how commercial banks perform, and central banks are usually leading those stress tests. I already explained in some of my blogs what are stress tests and how they are conducted. But the thing is, at this point, I might say they don't happen very often. The biggest stress test that I have witnessed in my trading career was during a global financial crisis, and that happened in 2008 or 9, and that was huge, guys. I always say the stress test that was conducted, I tried to trade it, and it was a stress test for my nerves, literally, because I hardly managed to get up with positive pips, and I even managed to get, I don't know, maybe 10-15 pips, but move was that was incredible. Price was it was like it was not like, of course, Swiss National Bank move or UK Black Swan, but it was huge. I mean, the price was moving every second, 50 pips up, 100 pips down each second, and that happened during global financial crisis in, as I say, 2008 or 9. But fortunately enough, those stress tests do not happen very often in today's markets. Okay, these are the most important news release data for euro. So of course we will always start with minimum bid rate, because bid rate decisions will always have the biggest impact on currency basket. Uh, you need to know, guys, that uh, ECB press conference tends to overshadow bid rate decision, simply because bid rate is usually priced in the market. What does it mean when we say that something is being priced in? It means that when uh, when price is moving, let's say for this example, uh, this was a surprise because markets had a forecast that the bid rate here would stay the same, 0.50, and markets were a bit surprised when bid rate was announced at 0.25, so 0.25% lower. So it was so-called rate cut. What usually happens is Eurobasket tends to tank heavily because this was not priced in the market. If the result had come the same as the forecast, 0.50, it wouldn't have had any impact in the market because it was priced in. But sometimes, well, even forecasts can make a mistake, and these kind of mistakes can be very costly to your accounts. That is why we don't trade news immediately after news results have been announced. We use so-called proactive setups that are traded solely on 5 minute time frame. And I will show you today also example what happened when Theresa May actually came up with snap election rumor and idea. I will show you how many pips you could have made if you traded my practical naked trading proactive setup. Also, don't forget, as I said, that German ZEW economic sentiment, flash manufacturing PMI also can move markets with proactive setups that I will show you. Always pay attention when the head of central bank speaks, because central banks are at the top of the food chain in forex and financial markets. German IFO business climate can also move markets. Well, today it was not the same as it was like 10 years ago, but still these kind of news events can move euro basket. Don't forget that dollar is also a big market mover. These are news that can move dollar basket. Average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, or so-called NFP, unemployment rate, BOE inflation report. Okay, this is for GBP, but don't forget that this is connected, guys. Okay, dollar, GBP, dollar will always move on these news announcements. Also, don't forget that NFP comes also with unemployment rate and average hourly earnings. So you need to take these three at the same time. For some traders, these results can be very confusing because you can see here, if NFP is good, like it was here, well, unemployment rate can be slightly worse than expected, and also average hourly earnings can come worse than expected. So what can happen then? You might be confused, right? Because what you will see is a whipsaw of price like this. So don't forget, that is one of the reasons why you should use proactive strategy. And if you trade NFP, why you should solely focus on 1 minute chart. That is what you will see just a little bit later. Again, FOMC statement. I personally really, I don't trade FOMC statements because what I know about FOMC is that they can really create huge spikes in the market during no liquidity market. Have in mind, guys, when liquidity is low, market movement can be huge. That is why you might see some big spikes at just before major market opens. Let's say during the first hour of new day from midnight till 1 a.m. That is when liquidity is low. And during low liquidity, well, you might see some unusual spikes. Uh, let's say 7 p.m. GMT or 6 p.m. GMT, depending on which time zone you live in. Well, it's not that liquidity, that big liquidity, because the only session that is active is US session. Don't forget, London, New York overlap is always the best for trading. But if you have a session that it's close to the end, we call it end of day, EOD, that is when you might see some big spikes. And your profits can also be either boosted or you can lose heavily. Well, I don't have a very good experience on my accounts on FOMC statement trading. That is why I'm solely focused. If I trade news, I go with GBP news release and with NFP, because NFP from time to time can really be a good mover. And I have a way how I trade it. I will show it today. Also, for you guys who live across the ocean or in Asia Pacific region, you might go and try to trade Australian dollar, Chinese data, New Zealand, and yen. Don't forget that equities, especially Nikkei, we call it equities. I don't like the word indices because traders prefer to use equities, and that is how I always spoke. So for me, it's equities. So Nikkei is a huge mover during Asia session, and Nikkei is heavily correlated with yen pairs. Okay, so yen pairs tend to move with Nikkei index. Chinese market and Chinese economy is huge. Chinese economy is currently the leading economy, of course, with US in the whole world. And you should never, ever underestimate the impact of Chinese data during Asian session. Chinese data also have impact on yen pairs, also on Hang Seng Index, okay, HSI 50, and also can create huge movement on some cross pairs such as Australian dollar yen, pound yen, New Zealand dollar yen. So if you want to trade Chinese data release, so please don't forget that movements on equities also can be huge. For example, Hang Seng Index can easily move 300 to 400 pips, even more, during a single session. And I'm still not sure how many of you follow dollar Chinese yuan. I will start to analyze this pair on an intraday basis very soon. So you might expect dollar Chinese yuan analysis very soon, at least as I'm concerned, because I like how dollar Chinese yuan moves. Okay, dollar is base currency and Chinese yuan is quoted currency. That is how we will go. And of course, Australian dollar, yen, New Zealand, Chinese yuan tend to have most impact during Tokyo session. Also, crude oil inventories, although a lot of calendars say that it's dollar, mainly dollar data, I tend to disagree because in my opinion, crude oil impacts CAD currency pair the most. So always watch CAD when crude oil inventories are due to come. Always watch CAD, okay? Very important because CAD is connected to crude oil. Now, dollar currencies, also British pound and euro currencies, tend to be in the first group. Canadian dollar is in the second group. Australian dollar, Japanese yen in the third group, New Zealand dollar in the fourth group. First group can be traded in London, New York session. CAD is traded during US session. Third and fourth group can be traded during Tokyo session. Also, New Zealand dollar can also be traded during London session, but have in mind, guys, especially if you use ATR, I use it heavily, average true range indicator. You need to know that ATR indicator is especially on New Zealand dollar, it shows very, very tight and low range, and the New Zealand dollar should be traded only on strong New Zealand data release during Wellington session when New Zealand data kick in. Okay, again, not each news can be traded. For me personally, I always tend to give the advantage to euro, dollar, and GBP crosses. Of course, I wouldn't trade yen if I lived, well, in the session where it's normal to trade yen in news during Asian session. But in Europe, guys, usually when important BOJ data kick in, or when Chinese data is about to come, well, we sleep. European traders sleep during that time. So it would not be smart to sleep, not to sleep during Asian session and then get up after 3 or 4 hours and try to trade London session. You always need to have a good sleep if you want to trade. You always need to be rested. You need to be calm. You should not panic. You should not be euphoric. And when you make money, you should always stay calm. Else, you will bring probably one of the 4 horsemen of apocalypse, greed. It's called greed, and it can create a bad picture on your account. So always try to make a plan, which news you will trade, which news you will focus. If you make money, step away from your PC and wait for another day. It's always the best. Okay? That is what I did today, for example, when I traded pound yen from my session recap setup. And I also will create a short video on that maybe during this day or tomorrow, and I will publish it. I will just show you how I traded it and what I did to make a lot of pips in pound yen trades. And I will also show you correlation, because you need to use correlation table. You should make even more money if you use correlation table. Now, let's get back to main subject. Pound news focus should be claim and count change, MPC asset purchase facility votes, of course, MPC official bank rate vote. This tends to have big impact. Unemployment rate, average earnings, services PMI, manufacturing production, and CPI. Inflation data also. Very high impact on pound basket. Okay? I like to trade pound simply because pound can give us one-way directional movement. And how we trade it? Well, for example, you can use Forex Factory at Admiral Markets calendar. Let's say you want to see a deviation from predicted numbers, and the numbers should be either red or green, okay? And you use the deviation to trade the news. Other useful tools that are available for you should be downloaded if you actively trade with Admiral Markets. Don't forget that all these tools you can get with Admiral Markets Supreme Edition. I use it heavily, especially news trading. Correlation matrix is something, a thing that I constantly have on my charts, because correlation matrix tell me which pairs are having strong correlation. So instead of opening one correlated pair, I can go with a couple of different pairs, and having in mind that I'm not double exposed. So guys, correlation is extremely important if you want to use it to your advantage, especially if you want to trade intraday. I am mostly intraday trader, and that is why correlation matrix is always on my chart. Another good tool is so-called tick chart trader. You can use ticks that your platform generates and focus on some spikes in opposite direction, and you can use tick charts also to close your trades, because guys, you will be trading NFP on 1 minute time frame. Okay, now let's get back to news trading. So this is how we use so-called proactive PNT setup. Now, if you ask what PNT is, it's my proprietary trading method that I developed before Camarilla MACD, and it served as a foundation of Camarilla MACD analysis. And definitely, I need to say that it stands for practical naked trading. You will not be using any indicators for news trading. The only indicator that you will use is the price and Admiral Markets pivot point. Why Admiral Markets pivot point and not other pivot point? Because pivot point that you should use for news trading is hourly pivot point. You don't use daily pivot points for news trading. News trading is this news trading. So this is not NFP. Have in mind, this is not NFP. This is standard news trading, GBP news. Let's call it GBP news trading. Or let's say euro dollar news trading for euro news release. For example, this. Or you can go with New Zealand yen, Chinese yuan, Australian dollar. But as I say, I mostly focus on pound crosses. Okay, so stick to that. Proactive setups enter 5 minutes after the first candle close in the news release direction, green or red. That is why you use hourly pivot points, because you trade it on 5-minute charts. When you use 5-minute charts for your entries, you stick to hourly pivot points. Daily pivot points are for intraday trading. Hourly pivot points are for scalping. News trading is form of scalping. I said it in the beginning, and this is how you can scalp with it. Okay. Now, conservative stop loss goes 5 pips above or below the candle prior to setup candle. Aggressive stop loss goes 10 pips above or below the setup candle. Targets are Admiral Markets hourly pivot points, but I also suggest that you use trailing stop once you're in profit, and depending on your stop loss, aim for 1-to-1. Now, a lot of traders ask me, is there a point for 1-to-1 trading? I will always say yes, because, well, that is what my account looks like. I'm positive on 80% of my accounts, and I'm negative only on one account at this point. And even though I'm an intraday trader, I can testify that if you take 50% of average true range, it's great, guys. And that is what I already explained on Admiral Markets webinars. I will also use Forex Street webinar next time to show you how you can be profitable if you go with ATR indicator, and why and how you can be profitable even if your risk to reward is 1-to-1. I have a proof, one of the accounts that has less than 1-to-1 win ratio, and it's still profitable. Well, money management is holy grail in Forex trading. Don't forget it. And if you have 70 to 80% of success, you can have a positive account. But that is another story. We can go next time. At this point, focus on this, okay? Especially because this is the form of scalping. Now, this is how it looks like. Okay, this is the example, and this strategy, I haven't changed it for many years. It stayed the same. It does not need to change because it's very clear, it's very easy, and it's very, very simple. So all sort of traders can use this strategy. So 5 minutes prior to news, open your M5 chart. Okay, this is pound dollar M5 chart. And this is an old example, but it serves the purpose. Wait for first 5-minute candle after the news to close. Okay, so that is setup candle. So this candle here is setup candle. Okay, now you need to wait for the setup candle to close. If the news came out good for GBP, okay, this is a big deviation. Always try to watch deviation 1, 2, 3. The bigger the deviation, the better. Okay, you need to understand, the bigger the better. If there is no deviation, we simply don't trade news. We wait. Now, if the news came out good for GBP, we want to trade the first breakout of that setup candle. Okay, the deviation was good. It's green, 62.6 compared to 59.3 forecast. This is setup candle closed, and your buy entry is here. Okay, your buy entry is here. Look what happened. Spike to the upside. Guys, this is spike trading. This is not intraday positioning. So you need to be fast, okay? You made money, okay? You're in profit. Just get out of your profits. Very often when I trade this, I simply watch hourly pivot points. If I see that the price is breaking hourly pivot points, for example, it goes up, I will move my stop loss here and I will use so-called profit stop. Profit stop is what big banks use. Profit stop what institutional traders use. And profit stop is what you as a retail trader should also use. Profit stop is something that can be very, very, very good for your accounts. Okay, stops. You have two ways to play stop loss: conservative and aggressive stop loss. Okay, let me show you in this example. If this is a setup candle, you can place your stop loss 5 pips below this candle. But if you use conservative stop loss, okay, you can use it also 10 pips below it. Back in days, I tend to put my stop loss there. But here, it would really be a huge discrepancy between entry and stop loss. So how I teach now is 5 or 10 pips below stop loss, below, in this example, setup candle. Okay, let me clear this and show you again. So 5 pips below the candle is so-called aggressive stop. 10 pips below this candle is conservative stop. Next example. Your entry was here. Okay, so here, another example. CPI came out worse than expected. And usually on CPI, deviation will not be that big because CPI is inflation data. And let me tell you that most of the time it will not be a huge discrepancy between forecast and the current result. So here we have a setup candle. Okay, here this is setup candle. But also, guys, have in mind that your entry should happen in next 30 to 45 minutes. If it does not happen, you simply neglect your setup. This came in, let's say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 minutes after the release. Okay, but it was very clear. Again, you can use always price action to forecast the movement. This was very clear. Your entry was here, setup candle. Okay, this was actually setup candle. Okay, your stop loss goes there and the price moved down. Okay, again, the same example where price went down. Another example, guys. I mean, this is very, very, very good when MPC official bank rate votes come exactly as planned. Usually it's good for GBP because then it means that most board members have agreed on future future monetary guidance, and usually pound would spike. So here, this is good release concerning that everyone was in line. So here we had actually our setup candle. Okay, the break of setup candle came here. Okay, stop loss 5 or 10 pips below. And don't forget, always include spread to your stop loss. Even if you trade with ECN account, you need to include 2 to 5 pip spread added to that stop loss. Because especially if you have 2-3 pip spread, always add the spread to your stop loss. It's very important. And here you see what happened. Price went down to test this lower part, Well, and then it went hugely to the upside. Okay, another setup candle here, stop loss there or there, and here your entry, and bang, it shoot it to the upside. Now I will show you also live chart, and you will see how it looks on a live chart. Uh, Here, GBP dollar, for example, first, when news happened with GBP today, I might say this was, well, this was a bit bearish, but then it came to be bullish. So, for example, today we had a setup candle here, you see, and then what happened? The price immediately dropped below instantly for 25 pips, and later it went up. In my opinion, this was very, very bullish for pound, because it should add to the stability of UK. So what actually happened, if you traded this was setup candle to the upside, your entry would have been here. Okay, your stop loss would have been 5 pips as below this setup candle, as aggressive, 10 pips below as conservative. Okay, and then watch this. These are hourly pivot points. Okay, and they are part of Admiral Market Supreme Edition. So if you want to have Admiral pivot points, you need to have Admiral Market Live account. On demo account, it's restricted to 30 days of use. But these pivot points are respected. Even though, you see, the price went heavily to the upside, making almost 200 pips. Well, I might say that all of these hourly pivot points have been respected. We can also use other example, let's say on pound yen. Same thing, guys. Setup candle. Okay. Okay. Just for demonstrational purposes, watch the logic. If this was a setup candle, your long entry would be here. Stop loss would be here. But you don't make an entry unless the price broke 2 to 3 pips above setup candle. And include spread. If your spread is 0.5 pips, then go, let's say, 3 to 4 pips above the candle. Setup stop losses go below this candle, and watch what happened. And hourly pivot points change each hour, so they are usually respected to its maximum. What I do usually, I take instantly 15 to 20 pips, and I am out of the market. That is how I do. Now, this is so-called proactive setup. So proactive setup is very, very clear. These are the rules. Okay, if anything is not clear, don't hesitate to ask me, because now I will show you how I trade NFP. NFP is a little bit different. Okay, so this is how I trade NFP. Okay, what is NFP? First of all, it tends to have a big impact in forex trading, especially on dollar crosses, and you should focus on euro dollar and dollar yen when you trade NFP. NFP is the total number of paid US workers of any business, excluding general government employees, private household employees, employees of non-profit organizations that provide assistance to individuals, and FAR employees. Advantages of NFP and accompanying data, because we cannot just say NFP, you need to take account average hourly earnings also, and unemployment data. But unemployment is usually priced in the market because US is at full employment now. In economy terms, when employment is 5% of less, it's deemed to be at its fullest. So US is at its full employment. The advantages of NFP, it's very volatile. It can be profitable if you know how to use it, but also it may give us a prevailing trend for next couple of weeks. So NFP creates impact in forex market, but also from time to time it can give us prevailing trend for next couple of weeks. Disadvantages for traders who don't know how to trade NFP, Again, volatility can be an enemy. That is why I advise you to use so-called VPS tool. If you have other markets, log in and activate your volatility protection setting. It's very, very important, okay? Because it can protect from sudden spike moves. It's very important, guys. You need to know that volatility can be your friend, but also it can be your enemy. So it can be activated directly from your account. Okay. Uh, Risks are very high, but also awards can be very high. It can create irrational movements in markets like whipsaws, and definitely the pairs to trade with NFP are euro dollar, GBP dollar, and dollar yen. How do we trade NFP? Open 1 minute chart, watch for deviation, wait for initial spike, draw a Fibonacci, enter at 88 or 78.6 retracement. So 78 or 88.6, those are most important numbers. Stop loss goes 10 pip below last high or low on 1 minute chart. So this is an example of NFP. Okay, so euro dollar, also old example, but it serves the purpose. NFP, let's say, came out bad, okay, worse than expected. So we might say that euro dollar should go up. Your initial spike was up. You need to watch initial spike. If the initial spike was to the upside, wait for a retracement, 878 or 88.6, and you drive the price towards your target. Okay. Same as another example here. Good NFP release, much higher than forecast number. And watch what happened. First, there was initial spike. Then we had a fade. Fade usually happens because news traders and big money that created the first spike tend to exit the market. So a lot of traders that made money tend to exit at this point, and that is why we had retracement. But this retracement is used as a piggyback to drive another leg to the upside. So this is what happened. If you see that the height of the first spike after NFP results came in has been taken out, you scale in. Okay, so this is used as a scaling in. Your original entries here, I call it conservative because it's a scale in. So you're scaling in. But don't forget that you should use hourly pivot points, and you should definitely be fast with your fingers, guys, because, well, the price can whipsaw. So definitely you need to use, you need to be very careful, and you need to have fast fingers. Another thing, this is when NFP was bad, but you see average hourly earnings was much better. What happened? Well, this definitely was good for euro dollar. Initial spike is important. It was to the upside. But then the fade kicked in. You didn't have 78 or 88.6 because the price didn't retrace. But what you could do is enter here, okay, at the break of the initial spike. Get in, get out fast. That is what you should do. And that is how these pivot points can help you. Okay, let's just use an example, guys. We will not use NFP. We can just use an example how you can trade it. Just a random example, just for demonstrational purposes, guys. Let's say that this was NFP, just for an example, okay? Let's say that NFP happened here. So NFP was not that good. Average hourly earnings, all other news came just as expected. But NFP was bad. It usually means that dollar yen would drop. But you need to be sure. So you watch for initial spike. Okay. The initial spike was here. Okay. You see, this was initial spike. Now you need to draw Fibonacci as soon as you see that the price is retracing. This is how you draw Fibonacci. 78 or 88.6 is your entry. It is good if you have a confluence with pivot point, because that is your entry. Your entry could happen here or there. If you can enter 1 or 2 pips below the price, it's not that important, but you can also wait. And here is your entry. You see, usually all of these pivot points will be respected. So your entry was here, but you can also scale in here. So you would actually have two positions in the market. What I usually do is, if my stop loss is here, okay, if I am in profit initially, I tend to move my stop loss here as soon as I see that the first support, in this case, has been broken. So my original entry here, my stop loss was there, and I moved stop loss here. It's called profit stop. Very easy to use, guys. Very useful, and it can safeguard your account if you know how to use it correctly. So have in mind that you should always pay special attention to scaling in, moving your profits after, moving your stop loss to profit after you executed your trade correctly. Because what can happen is sudden spike to the upside. I already explained, every trader, every institution, every market mover will read news, NFP data differently. So the first spike is important, fade is important for your entry, and then securing your profits is the last piece of this puzzle. Don't forget that you can always contact us here. You can always send an email to me also at tarantulafx@gmail.com. I will always gladly explain and answer your questions. So if anything is not clear, don't hesitate to contact me. I hope that you enjoyed, guys, and I hope to see you soon. And I always wish you a huge welcome to my webinars and live trading sessions. So at this point, I wish you to trade safe, and cheers, everyone. Talk to you soon.